You're welcome back and get interactive with us via our social media handles as we bring you this exciting edition of the Pulse. Now, Ghana's firefighting ability is in serious crisis as a significant number of fire tenders are either dysfunctional or out of commission. The situation is even dire in the OT and the Upper East regions, where 100% of appliances there have serious problems, making it difficult for firefighters to use. We can talk about the Volta, Greater Accra, including the fire service headquarters itself, facing a crisis situation in responding to fire outbreaks. Now, the details are contained in a response from the Ghana National Fire Service to a right to information request submitted to the service. Shortly, we'll be hearing from the Parliament's Committee on Defense and Interior, as well as safety experts on what all of these mean for you and I. Now, in the studio this afternoon is Joy News editor Fred Smith to help us understand the full picture. So, Fred, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, so this is serious for especially the issue with fire management and dealing with emergency situations. So if you have fire service, an entity that is responsible for this, and they are going through this difficulty, then the situation is quite gloom. Walk us through the response you get from the fire service, because this is coming from their own mouth.
Well, indeed, our concern or our curiosity stemmed from the fact that a number of fire incidents occur, and what we hear from victims and persons who witnessed the fire outbreak is that, well, the fire service arrived there late. As a result, a lot of property and lives were not saved or were not protected in that situation. So we decided to ask for official figures to try and understand what makes it difficult for the fire service to move to fire disaster scenes. And that's what drove us to get the details that we've got today. Now, before I go into the numbers, right, I'd like to give you the scope of the work that the fire service is supposed to do. So beyond fighting fire, they're also responsible for responding to road accidents. They are supposed to be saving people who are drowning. They are also supposed to be rescuing those trapped in collapsed buildings and flood rescue operations. They're also charged with trying to help those dealing with bee attacks. So right, if you have
bee attacks.
Yes, bee attacks. So the number of things I've mentioned that form the core responsibilities of the Ghana National Fire Service are all things that require urgent response. And so once you call the fire service, you should be able to hear from them in the shortest possible time.
So basically, once it's an emergency situation, the fire service should be the first responders to any emergency situation.
Indeed.
Fire, accident, whatever constitutes emergency.
If you are drowning and you don't have much time if you are sinking into the water. So the fire service must immediately move in to save you. And so that's what we drove us to ask them the questions. And so the response they gave us was that...
So this is a response coming from the Ghana National Fire Service.
Indeed.
The state of affairs. It's not that we have done our own investigation and come up with it. This is
not at all.
Response the Ghana Fire Service is providing to our question.
Indeed. So we asked specifically whether they are prepared to fight fires or respond to other emergencies if they occur in Ghana. So the response, and I quote to you, we are well prepared to combat any undesired fires. Okay, that's the position of the Ghana National Fire Service. But we looked beyond this declaration and looked at the numbers behind, the claim. And we found that the data they themselves provided tells a different story altogether. The data is showing that 54% of all fire tenders in Ghana are either faulty or not functioning at all.
More than half.
More than half. That's 54%. Mm-hmm.
But in terms of their strength, how many in terms of nationwide can the Ghana National Fire Service account for?
Well, indeed, they break that down into regions. Mm-hmm. So for the upper east and OT regions, the situation I've painted to you is 100%. Their trucks are either faulty or not functioning at all. That's OT and the upper east regions. These two regions are the worst hit. Now we come to the Volta region, where 15 out of the 17 trucks that they have are also either faulty or not functioning at all. The upper west region follows. They have 14 fire tenders. 12 of that 14 are in the similar situation. Greater Accra region, yeah, a bit better, but also in a dire situation. More than half of the fire tenders here, that's 60% of the fire trucks in the Greater Accra region are either faulty or out of use.
So what you are communicating is what we have on the screen.
Indeed,
in terms of the regional breakdown and which region is hardest hit, which region that virtually cannot account for any fire engine.
Indeed.
All the way down to the region that can boast of some fire engines working but may not be up to the standard.
Exactly.
And I see some regions 100%. 100% means what? They don't have any fire engine at all.
Either they have but cannot use it. That's a white elephant. It's faulty. In Weija in Greater Accra, for instance, there was a fire engine. Currently, it's been declared in the response that fire service gave us that it's out of commission because the engine was burnt. Now, we went beyond the claim in the document they gave us to investigate how did the engine get burnt. So we understand that because the vehicle is quite old, there was fire in nearby Kaswa. So they sent the fire truck to go and help in dealing with the fire. On its way, it caught fire.
The fire engine caught fire?
The fire engine caught fire. It never got to the destination.
And that led to the destruction of the engine?
Exactly. So the engine, the entire vehicle cannot be used again. It's out of commission completely. So that's what happened there. So a number of these fire trucks in the various regions either have their trucks with such faults or are not in service at all. In Greater Accra, for instance, Kolebu doesn't have. And you know the Kolebu station is strategic because it's close to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Kolebu is not just serving the people of Kolebu, it's serving the entire country and even beyond. The West African countries have some persons coming here for healthcare. And so it's a very, very dire situation for the Ghana National Fire Service.
And I can understand why it took so long for the Ghana Fire Service to deploy to Parliament House when part of the Justice 100 was engulfed in flames because they didn't have a standby fire engine to address the fire incident. They had to rely on a fire engine from the Jubilee House to deal with the matter and from the headquarters of the Ghana National Fire Service.
But you realize that the headquarters of the fire service is not too far from Parliament House.
Right.
Exactly. So what we understand is that that office, the headquarters, has got 8 fire trucks. 6 of them are either faulty or out of commission, Elton. It's such a very precarious situation for them. And so it is the reason why, if you observe in one of our stories that we covered from Makola, there was fire, and someone was complaining that when they called the fire service on the phone, they walked there to check whether the fire was, how the extent of the fire. They walked on foot.
They needed to assess the situation first before deciding whether to bring in a fire tender or not.
But I painted a picture to you earlier.
Right.
That this is an emergency situation. For instance, your house is burning. How much of it can you salvage? For instance, you are sinking in the water. How soon can someone get you out? You are under attack from bees. How soon can someone get to you to bring you some protection or some relief? You know, or you are in an accident. Your vehicle is involved in an accident. You are injured inside, but because the vehicle is mangled, someone must be there, you know, someone with expertise to cut open the vehicle and be able to free you if you are not dead, you are just injured, but are trapped in the vehicle. There should be help immediately.
Right, very important. I'm also interested in getting to understand the other questions that we asked them and the response we got, especially about the availability of fire engines.
Yes, indeed, the engines are the ones we've actually talked about. Right. So if you have 54% of all engines not functioning, then it is difficult for you to respond to fire emergencies and other emergencies that you have to deal with. And so that's also in a very bad situation.
All right. Fred, let's also look at the areas that, you know, we can focus this on about the fire engines and how the Ghana Fire Service themselves are trying to deal with this matter.
Yeah. So I mentioned some of them. I've talked about the fire service headquarters itself. We've also talked about the regions that are struggling. So the Upper East, Oti, Volta, Upper West, and Central. And if you look at the Upper East situation, we talked about the 100% faulty or out of commission rates. So they have 16 appliances, 16 of them are faulty. In Oti, they have 8 are out of operation. And so if you have an emergency to deal with fire, it will be very difficult for the fire service to come to your aid. Volta region follows, 17, only 15. Well, as many as 15 are faulty.
Okay.
So it means that only 2 are available to serve the entire Volta region. You know.
And I remember last month when I spoke to the PRO here, I mean, when we're dealing with the issue of the accident, he said that, for example, between Nsawam all the way through Nkoko, all the way to Konongo, there's only one fire engine that is serving that entire enclave. And from Obuasi all the way to Kumasi, there's no fire engine there. The reason why sometimes in the event of an accident, they are unable to respond appropriately. Sometimes they rely on the police as first responders, which is actually not the case. Did the question or did the response provide a roadmap to address this serious challenge facing the Ghana?
Well, it doesn't address the situation because the fire service itself says that they are ready to fight any fire. It means that they are not even recognizing.
In the midst of the difficulty, they say that they are still battling.
They are doing very well. So we had to actually screen the numbers that they had given us to understand the extent of the problems that they are dealing with. There's a big struggle to actually deal with emergencies at the fire service. And the thing starts right from their headquarters. So there's no plan, and that was not also communicated in the response that was given to us.
And there's also the personnel that they've recruited. And because of the fact that they don't have equipment for them to work with, we have so many of them idle.
Yes, so they've trained more than 15,000 so far, but less than 5,000 are currently operational. But that's also not a bad thing. The 10,000 that we have, I mean, because we have such a challenge with education on fire prevention, for instance, you know, so that we are not reacting to the incident, but rather preventing it from happening in the first place. If we are able to deploy these, but considering the extent of damage to vehicles, and some of them, it's just the brakes that are not working, you know, and so considering the extent to which we have these problems and we are struggling to deal with, it may not be even possible to fund the campaigns of these officers if you want to send them out.
But before you go, anything more you want to add before I bring in our guests to look at the way forward? Well,
the other issue that compounds the situation is such that if even the fire service is able to move to you, they need water to deal with the water, the fire. It turns out that a lot of the fire hydrants are also not working. And so if they are able to even move, there's a next step to deal with availability of water, and that's also a big challenge for them.
All right. Thank you so much. First Smith is editor here at Joy News. Nana Yao Akwada is the Executive Director of Bureau of Public Safety. We will also try and get to the Parliament Select Committee on Defense and Interior. Nana Yao, you're welcome to the post.
Thank you very much for having me. I must say that my internet connectivity is very bad. I see a lot of breaks in there. So viewers will have to forgive me, or your producers may have to change from Zoom to a normal phone call. At least I'm within the jurisdiction now. Okay.
Right. So for now, we can hear you loud and clear. So perhaps we can stay with this. So you have been listening to the SARS state of the Ghana National Fire Service, for want of a better word. What is your initial reaction to what we are getting from the force's own mouth?
Well, look, I'll tell you that I'm not surprised at these figures. We've always known that to a very large extent, most of the public safety institutions, I'm talking Ghana National Fire Service, Ghana Ambulance Service, and the police service, they have a very poor maintenance culture, and it's not just because of a poor maintenance culture. The maintenance culture is as a result of lack of accountability, excessive centralization of management, and which is the outcome that we are seeing today. I remember years back, the Bureau of Public Safety did put out for the National Ambulance Service, where I think they had just a handful of vehicles that were functional. It attracted the same furore and the same responses that we will be getting with this fire service story. What we would want to see is a complete decentralization of the service so that we can hold district commanders accountable for assets they receive. We can hold regional commanders accountable for assets they receive up to the national level. Currently, that is not the case. Okay, so we have a case where something goes off. You will need to go through a whole lot of bureaucracy up to the top before you are able to buy common things like brake parts. Okay, so that is bad. And I remember about 2 months ago, I did say that nothing would change within these public safety institutions unless we begin to hold people accountable. Okay, this is the state of affairs. I indicated that what is the plan that the chief fire officer have to solve these challenges. I asked this question 2-3 months ago. So if this data that is coming out is bad enough, but there is no plan, that's the worst part. There is no plan. So how could we train people with our meager resources only for them to come to work and do nothing? The LI that set the Ghana National Fire Service up empowers the institution to go out there, perform inspections. Okay, it empowers them to go out there and perform, train the communities, identifiable bodies and all. How often do they do this in the face of all these logistical challenges? Because you can have 20 fire extinguishers or 300 fire extinguishers all functional. If the people are not well educated, will still be running short of capability.
All right. Now,
so what is the plan they have for this?
So we'll talk about the plan and then we'll look at the way forward. But let me bring in James Agaga. James Agaga is the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. Honorable Agaga, it's a pleasure to have you here on the Pulse. Good afternoon. Honorable James Agaga, good afternoon. Welcome to the Pulse.
Good afternoon, Elton.
Yes, great. So I'm just going through the figures, and this is a response by the Ghana National Fire Service to our RTI request. And they say that out of the 248 appliances that they have, 133 are faulty, meaning 53.6% are not in use. Now, to put it in a way that is better understood, the PR of the Ghana National Fire Service says that because their machines are so old, even an Aboboya can overtake them when they are racing to address an emergency situation. Is it a case of neglect, or we simply don't have the resources to make them more viable?
Well, I think the response to the RTI request is something that has been known to some of us for a very long time. And I am not surprised that over 50% of the equipment, or if you like, the firefighting vehicles that are at the disposal of the fire service are not operational. The reason is simple. For a long time, the government has neglected the fire service. In fact, the last time the Ghana National Fire Service took delivery of firefighting equipment, if my memory serves me right, sometime in 2014.
2014?
2014.
That's 10 years ago.
when I was Deputy Minister for the Interior, the last batch of fire tenders were delivered. Prior to the last delivery, Professor Mills had also ordered over 126 firefighting vehicles. So cumulatively, all the firefighting vehicles we have now, none, not even a single one, was bought for the service by this current administration, the government of President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia. And yet, it is common knowledge that after 8 years, those tenders are usually supposed to be replaced. After 8 years of service, firefighting vehicles are supposed to be replaced because, you know, these are vehicles that are supposed to move at certain speeds to be able to attend to emergency situations and put out fire. I mean, if you have an old firefighting vehicle and its speed is not above 60 kilometers per hour, it means that you are just joking.
Right.
Such a vehicle cannot attend to emergency situations and achieve good results. So this is a problem which is due to neglect.
But
you talk about releases of funds for the servicing and maintenance of the existing fleet, and that is nothing to write home about. I'll give you one example, Elton.
Okay.
Look, these vehicles are supposed to be serviced by experts. There was a time the fire commander in my district actually approached me for support to service the fire tender at a mechanic's shop. I found that to be strange because the firefighting engines are very special in nature and cannot be serviced by just any mechanic. And yet that is what the fire commander was constrained to do.
Because clearly he was left with no choice.
No choice. Sometimes their ties are worn out and they cannot buy ties. They have to call on people. They have basically been reduced to begging. They beg for arms in order to replace their ties and buttons. The government is not responsive to the plight of the Ghana National Fire Service at all, and that for me is very, very unfortunate.
But Honorable, you, I mean, your committee has supervisory role over the Ghana National Fire Service, also with the police and the other security institutions. Now, the Ministry of Interior, the Ghana National Fire Service is under it, the Ghana Police as well. Now, every year, sometimes 2 or 3 times in a year, you see the president, the interior minister, they go and hand over vehicles to the Ghana Police Service. And the joy that they do these things. Also, same with the military, they go to the barracks, they hand over vehicles to them, and they are so excited about doing so. Why are we not doing same for the Ghana National Fire Service?
Elton, I think the government simply does not consider the Ghana National Fire Service as part of their priority, services, which needs to be given the needed attention and supported. Look, as a committee, anytime the budget of the Ghana National Fire Service is brought before us for constitution and approval, we have always spoken out against the meager budgetary allocation that the fire service gets. Even at the plenary, when we are called upon to debate the budget of the Ghana National Fire Service, we have not missed words about the need for the government to retool the fire service. Some time ago, the one fundamental requirement that the fire service didn't have was hydraulic platforms. Now, at some point, we're told that the hydraulic platforms had been brought in and so on and so forth. At some point, we're again told that those platforms were faulty. They were faulty. How does we try to get responses from the ministry and the fire service is futile. We kept getting responses which were not convincing enough. But you see, the good thing is that we haven't experienced any fire outbreak in any high-rise building for us to be able to determine whether those hydraulic platforms that have been brought into the country are capable of carrying our gallant firemen and women, up the skyscrapers to put out fires. So these are some of the challenges. But on like you rightly pointed out, more often what we see is the donation of vehicles to the police and the armed forces and so on and so forth. But as for the fire service, throughout the period that this particular government has been in office, they have never presented any firefighting equipment or tenders to the service, and that for me is very unfortunate.
I mean, the way forward here, and I'm looking at the breakdown. So, for example, in the Upper East region and the Oti region, 100% all equipments are out of service. So, if there should be an emergency situation now anywhere in the Upper East region, the fire service will not have the means to attend to it. Volta region is 88%, Upper West is 85%. Even here in Greater Accra region, it is 60%. The only region that appears to have some semblance of normalcy is the Northern region, Bono region, Savannah, and the Ashanti region, between 15 and 24%. This, for me, calls for action. Should we have perhaps a dedicated funding that can address this, especially for the Ghana National Fire Service?
When you talk about dedicated funding, I think that it's back to square one to start talking about dedicated funding sources, because all attempts to secure dedicated funding sources for the security sector has, proved futile. Look, if you look at the national security strategy we currently have, provision has been made for the establishment of a security fund, right? But that fund has never materialized. Then again, you look at the National Disaster Management Organization Act. In that particular act, we made sure we made provision for a disaster management fund. Unfortunately, the coffers of the fund, are empty. Government paid the money on a few occasions, and that ended it. If you check right now, you can file an RCI request. There is no money whatsoever in the disaster management fund. So as for me, the solution, I think, is not about setting up any dedicated funding. All we need is a political commitment and will to resource and to retool the Ghana National Fire Service. Once the government has that will, it considers firefighting, emergency situations, accidents, and remember that the mandate of the fire service goes beyond merely fighting fires.
Absolutely, they are the first respondent to any emergency situation.
Extrication is one of their core functions. When accidents occur, they are the ones who extricate victims from the vehicles, wrecked vehicles, and all that. So we need government to demonstrate some commitment. And once you have that commitment, I'm sure we can do better for the Ghana National Fire Service. We don't need any dedicated funding for fighting fires, given the experience I have. Because you set it up with all the fanfare, and yet at the end of the day, if they don't pay money into the fund, then you'll be back to square one. So let the government demonstrate some political commitment. And then when that is done, we can retool the Ghana National Fire Service. How was the NDC government able to buy over 230 fire tenders for the service? And those are the tenders which are still in use. And for 8 years running, this government is not able to purchase even one fire tender for the service. So straight away, Elton, you see that this government simply hasn't got the commitment to retool the service.
But my final, before you go, I know that the days of the 8th Parliament are numbered, but is there something you can do to sort of get the minister to commit to something? Perhaps the Assurance Committee can hold him to it if that assurance is done.
Is it not too late? They have a few days to go. And so rather than waste time by asking questions here and there and for the minister to come and answer and the assurance committee will now hold him accountable and so on, it's too late in the day. I would say the government has failed and should be kicked out so that a more competent regime, when it is in place, can read through and demonstrate some commitment towards the Ghana National Fire Service, and the service wouldn't be the same.
All right. Honorable James Agaga, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let me go back to Nana Akwan. Nana, we've heard the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee. I mean, clearly, it doesn't look like there's much confidence in terms of getting this fixed now. For him, the last time the service was retooled was in 2014. So clearly, we've left the National Fire Service to be on their own. Your own recommendation as we find a solution to this issue.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry I have to be smiling all over, but that's what happens when some of these things come up and we first will want to speak to the politicians. I mean, yes, they are very important in the scheme of things. They are policy, makers. But in a situation like this, where it's not as if the engines are not there, engines are not there, they are there and they are faulty. I would rather speak to the chief fire officer, speak to his lieutenants at the regional and at the district level. We have to ask them some tough questions because, look, you have been provided with what you need. If what you need is broken, what steps have you taken to fix those? I mean, James Agaga, has had his day. He's knocked over his opponent's head. But if you should bring the MPP on here, they will probably also be telling you something nice about them, what they are planning to do and what they have done or probably have done. So we must hold those public service workers accountable. Those are the ones we really, really need to hold them accountable. What steps have they taken the whole world over? Okay, public safety institutions. I'm talking the police, the ambulance, and the fire service. They are owned by the community. The communities participate in it. What level of community participation have they, tried to court? Zero. What is the level of ownership that the community is even owning? In this country today, we will have a business mogul, and we've had several of them come up, build a whole station and hand it over to the police, build a whole station with a vehicle, hand it over to the fire department, and in 2, 3, 4 years, it's been run down. So we have to call the regional district commanders and the chief fire officer to speak to some of these figures and let James and his team, breathe some fresh air now. It's a few days to elections. They should go and campaign. Let's deal with the people that we have entrusted our safety in their hands so that we get them thinking on the job and not sleeping on the job.
But if the fire service in their response to right to information says that even in the midst of the challenges that they are facing, they are about to ready to deal with any emergency situation. Clearly,
you are running.
That obviously will not give anybody any comfort.
No, it doesn't. There are images, footage that is running on the screens right now as we speak. Okay, the experience. You can go out there on the street, ask anybody on the street whether they are satisfied with the work of the Ghana National Fire Department. The story is that bad. So we should not sit down for rhetoric. We should let them know that they cannot tell us that they are battle ready when they can't tell us how long it takes to reach an event site. When they cannot tell us the time that it takes for them to turn around to come to a site that is on fire. They cannot tell us that they are battle ready when more than half of their equipment are down. Are they telling us that then they don't need as many? If they can work with less than half of what they have now, and they can tell us with that they are battle ready, that they didn't need it in the first place. That's the point. And we should not sit down for any manager to speak like this to us. This is 2024, for God's sake. So if you're a manager and you tell me you are supposed to work with 10 engines, but you have 4 and you are battle ready, I don't need to give you 10. Well, and what's the whole point? We are just throwing money away.
Just a final question so that we can move on. Why do you think there appears to be so much concentration on the military and the police to the neglect of the Ghana National Fire Service?
Well, you are moving into other areas now. No, and I think your guess is as good as mine. Look, your guess is as good as mine. We are a third world country. No apologies about that. We have very crooked, and I'm choosing my words very, very carefully. We have some very crooked politicians. So we tend to manipulate the system such that, well, we went to hear when the soldiers ran amok, violated the rights of citizens. Have you heard any one of them being brought to book? So we pamper them. Nobody is ready to look in their face and say, we are a democratic nation and you cannot do this or do that. So because we pamper them, we have to do everything to make them happy so that they stay in the barracks, so they do not come and disturb any politician's nest.
All right.
So that is a fact, and I think that one, there's no arguments about it. It's something that a lot of people will not talk about it, but I choose to talk about it because that is what it is.
I think I don't know whether Bisaga guy is so, because I hear his voice, whether you want to chip in something. We've lost him. Nane Akoda, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We've been talking about the Ghana National Fire Service and their response to our right to information. I mean, giving us a picture of the situation as it is with the Ghana National Fire Service and their readiness to deal with any emergency situation. We'll take a short break and return with more here on The Pulse. Of course, you're welcome back to The Pulse. This is your election headquarters, and of course, we are talking about the U.S. elections. Early voting is underway in the United States with millions of voters already casting their ballot in person or by mail. So far, 76 million Americans have voted early. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris' campaign is urging Democrats to make the most of early voting, viewing it as a strategic move to secure votes before Election Day tomorrow. Now, despite his past criticism of early voting, former President Donald Trump, along with the Republican Party, is also encouraging early ballot casting among their supporters. Now, here at Joy News, we'll be bringing you live coverage of the U.S. election starting at midnight on November 6th. Now, joining me in the studio is our very own in-house political communicator, Professor Jessica Nko. He has followed the U.S. elections closely and joins me with updates. So, Prof, you're welcome.
You again.
Yeah, good to see you too. You came back from the U.S. not quite long ago.
Yes, I was there for the DNC convention covering that momentous election, the demonstrations, and taking a couple of updates in the run-up to November.
Is it as tense as what we have here in Ghana?
Oh yes, it's very tense. You know, there's just a lot at stake. There are a lot of people who don't want to see Donald Trump back, but then there are so many people as well who just don't want the Democrats to come back. They want to see the back of the Democrats because of inflation, increasing costs, and other things. So it's a consequential election. Never before has a U.S. election has had people with such contrasting characters vie for the presidency. It's just two opposites of the same divide. So it's a very tensious moment.
So far, 76.4 million they've voted already. They call it mail-in and early in-person votes. What was the meaning of this?
Right. So
one is you walk in, you vote, and then you leave the voting center. There's nothing like proxy.
Right. So the mail-in ballots or the absentee ballots gives people the opportunity to vote even before election day. And it's great because when we talk about democracy, one of the major principles is the principle of inclusion, expanding the universal suffrage to many more people. And so literally you can be in your house, request for the mail-in ballots, you fill in your forms, decide who you want to vote for, and then you send those mails in. If your work schedules don't allow you, if you are outside the country, if you are in the military, you are sick, or there's any reason why you can't go. Plus, there's a lot of queues. You know, people go and put stones and other things down out here.
You mean the U.S.?
No, I'm talking about here. So to avoid such things, you know, some people have that option of sending in their mail-in vote. So as you rightly said, when we turn in here, over 76 million people already sending in their mails. I was actually in one of those mail-in rooms. I wish I'd sent you that video before today, but I had a chance to go into the mail-in rooms to see how very well organized highly securitized over there. Very decent professional people handle it. They count it and then they wait till election day to do the tally. So that's what happens. And as we can see by party registration, so far 41% Democrats have voted in by mail, and 39% of Republicans
They've also voted. They've
have
also taken
voted.
part in the early vote.
Yeah, so that means these people have already voted, you know, even before tomorrow.
So does this suggest 41% for Democrats and 39% for Republicans? Does this suggest that already the Democrats are leading?
That's a very interesting question. Just by party affiliation, we can hazard that guess. But it's just registered Democrats or Republicans. So it might not be the exact thing. The catch here is that the mail-in people are not allowed to open it and they're not allowed to actually count, you know, until election day. So until the real voting day, we wouldn't know exactly where what goes. But the various campaigns are looking at it and making political fodder or making political hay out of it, because at least it gives an indication as to their affiliations. So that's for the party registration. Of course, it's represented here. So if you go to the states, for instance, if you want to take maybe a swing state, let's say Pennsylvania. So there we go. We click it and we have 57% Democrats voting, 33% of Republicans voting. That would be very good news for Democrats, because
it's a swing state.
It's a swing state. And you cannot win without Pennsylvania.
Right.
Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris need to go through Pennsylvania to enter the White House. and this is it. But hey, the catch here is more Republicans vote on election day in person than Democrats. So you cannot look at the mail-in and decide that, oh, okay, we are going to win, because a whole lot more is going to happen on that election day. Okay, so let's get back to this. Now let's look at age. A very interesting dynamic as well. You look at it and we have 65 and over, okay, people who are aged 65 and over, 40% of them have already voted, okay, by mail. We have 50 to 64, 27% of them. Those between the ages of 30 to 39, that's 11%. And then we have 18 to 29, I believe that's 9%. So you see a lot more older people voting this time around
ahead,
and compared to the younger demographics. So if you take, let's look at a different, let's take North Carolina, because that's also a swing state. Where do we have the highest number?
65 and over, 32%.
Wow. Which is a surprise, because you'd think that the younger people will be more adept to doing this mail-in votes, early voting. But hey, don't trust young people when it comes to voting, because a lot of them don't seem to care or don't seem to be synced in. So that explains that. Now we come to gender. And gender is going to be really big in this election, because we have a female presidential candidate and a male presidential candidate. So let's see what's happening. For those who have already voted, women 53%, men 44%. And what does this mean? Well, Kamala Harris will look at this and be very happy, because she's a female candidate and a lot of the female voters are breaking for her big time. If the female turnout is very, very high, she is going to have a very, very good chance of beating Donald Trump in the race.
So tomorrow is actually the mass voting, if you like. How is it the same as Ghana, where you walk to a polling center and then go through the process and vote and then you leave?
Yes, it's the same thing. Back in March, I had the opportunity to observe one of these voting processes in the primaries. They are very safe, very secure places. You literally walk, it's very hassle-free. You just literally walk in, they check to make sure that you're registered, your details are correct, and then you go in there, just you alone there, you cast your ballot, you go and put it there. By 7 p.m., a lot of the counting would have started. In fact, some results would have been coming in by 7 p.m. So it's a very hassle-free process as well.
Okay. So, Prof, I'm interested in this. I know that the U.S., most of these offices are electable offices.
Yes.
So you are voting for a president between Trump and Kamala. There's also the Senate.
Yes.
There's also the governors, sometimes the mayors, the House of Representatives. Is it the case that you are going through this tall list of people as far as voting is concerned?
Yeah, you are right there, Elton. It's not just the presidential election which is at stake, but we do have...
But for now, thank you so much for passing through, Prof. And you didn't stick your neck out for either Trump or Kamala. I don't know.
It's because there hasn't been any election which has been as close as this.
Close as this.
People leading by less than 1 percentage point, that's a toss-up.
Right. So we'll have a lot more to digest on this matter in the early hours of Wednesday. By that time, the results will have started to come. We'll speak to Ghanaians in the U.S., some citizens, some struggling with documentation issues, and what they make of the elections and the outcome, and how that will impact their lives. You want to stay tuned in for that discussion in the early hours of Wednesday, exactly midnight, all the way till around 5 a.m. We'll have a special edition of the Super Morning Show also for you. But for now, we'll take a short break whilst we're keeping an eye on the U.S. election. Return with our own election with just 33 days to the national polls. Welcome back. This, of course, is your election headquarters. We are back from the US of A. We are now back in Ghana. We also have 33 days to the presidential and parliamentary elections. Now, the NDC has reaffirmed its stance against signing a peace pact with the Peace Council, criticizing the annual ineffective commitment in preventing electoral violence, citing the tragic loss of 8 lives in the 2020 elections. Deputy Director of Elections and IT, Rashid Tanko Computer, emphasized that the party's position remained unchanged even after its flag bearer John Dramani Mahama endorsed the recent peace campaign launched at the forecourt of the State House. His comments sparked a rebuttal from the Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Minister Stephen Asamoah Boateng, urging the NDC to reconsider their entrenched position. Here's a wrap of the launch of the National Peace Campaign.
The road to signing this year's peace accord hasn't been without controversy. The NDC, led by its chairman, Johnson Esedun Ketia, lashed out at the Peace Council, signaling its reluctance to sign the peace pact due to violence that rocked the 2020 elections.
Declaration don't mean anything to us.
A peace declaration? It doesn't mean anything to you?
It doesn't mean anything to us because all previous declarations have not been adhered to, and those declarations have not solved any problem. If you allow violence to be brewed, you have violence, whether you sign declaration or not. And so that is why, for more than a year ago, I started talking about the need for us to remove the building blocks for violent elections. So at any stage, when something is happening, I call on those who in future will call us to sign declarations to speak up so that we stop this particular thing from happening.
After much deliberations between the party's leadership and the Peace Council, they finally submitted to the peace commitment with the ruling NPP and others at the forecourt of the State House on Sunday. Justice to prevail, NDC flag bearer John Mahama made a case for justice to prevail and the need to avoid any form of weapons at the polling centers.
The call for peace transcends any one party or its leader. It is about the very survival of Ghana's democracy and the sanctity of our electoral process. Each of us has a role to play in this. Our clergy, like all citizens, should be able to witness voting and counting peacefully, without fear of violence. If someone errs or is disruptive during the election, they should be made to face justice. The government has a responsibility to hold accountable any criminals who masquerade during the elections as state security operatives. No weapons must be allowed in or around any polling stations, including at all collation centers. Election security is the primary responsibility of the Ghana Police Service under the Inspector General of Police. There must therefore be no deployment of the military or armed national security operatives at any polling station or collation center.
The New Patriotic Party's running mate, Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, reiterated the need to truly commit to the peace pact.
Nobody should advocate for himself. A peacemaker, and that if it is not him, Ghana should burn. We are a religiously tolerant people. We have been religiously tolerant since the golden times, or Gold Coast days through Ghana till now. Let us not add to the fire with religious intolerance.
APC flag bearer Hassan Ayariga used the platform to insist that governments beef up efforts to end the Boko conflict after his bodyguard was killed in the violence.
I want government to sit up. The problem in Boko is escalating. I'm just coming from a funeral. I was there with the chief imam to bury 4 people from Accra who were shot and killed in Wali Wali, just driving the stretch to Bolga. And people have mounted roadblocks, moving people out of their cars and killing them with impunity, shooting at them, burning them. One of my bodyguards is a victim. I just lost one of my bodyguards who was burned to ashes. So as we are here, this forum is not just for peace. It's a creating of awareness of something bigger than peace. That is why I'm here to tell you.
As a commission, we are poised to conduct peaceful, transparent, credible, and fair elections. And we have demonstrated this by our action. We would like to assure the people of Ghana that the processes are so inclusive, participatory, open, and transparent. As we speak, all the political parties have their agents at the printing houses.
Right, so the key question this afternoon is whether or not the parties will commit to sign the peace pact. And of course, the NDC, they've made it clear that they have some concerns that must be addressed first. This is just a commitment to win, but sign of the pact is the next stage in terms of having this document become binding. And of course, with just 33 days to the elections, the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections calls for peace and cessation of the deployment of armed men to polling centers have increased. Now, the road to signing this year's peace accord hasn't been without controversy. And the NDC, led by its chairman, last of the Peace Council, signals its reluctance to sign the pact due to violence that rocked 2022 elections. Now, chairman of the Peace Council of Ghana, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujemfi, says his outfit is working hard to get all the political parties to sign the peace pact. He made this call when an AU delegation donated some electrical equipment to the council.
Peace pact. We have not come to the conclusion yet. And we want the public to know that for this year's election, we are doing peace pact in 25 constituencies, in addition to the National Peace Pact. So some peace pact will take place in some other constituencies that we think and we classify as some hotspots. And so we are working towards all of these things. I think in the coming days, a lot more information will put up in the public domain. But for now, it takes time to get commitments from everybody. And those are the things we are working on.
Also, the Bone East Regional Chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Gilbert Deyeboa, is also asking political parties and actors, as well as stakeholders in the political process, to abreast themselves with the requisite knowledge on electoral matters to ensure peaceful elections in the December polls. He made this call intentional during the launch of his book, Protecting the Integrity of the Ballot, a Collective Responsibility, and not submit as more.
Holders in the electoral space have been urged to abreast themselves with the requisite knowledge about elections in the country to help have the needed peaceful electoral system. This call was made by the Bono East Regional Chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Gilbert Deyeboa, at the launch of his book titled Protecting the Integrity of the Ballot, a Collective Responsibility.
I've noticed that interest in politics and elections is growing fast, but not with correspondent in the growth in knowledge in elections. When elections are approaching, people shout, we want peaceful elections. But the truth is that you can only have peaceful election when the election itself is credible. But the credibility of elections is not ensured by only Electoral Commission. In fact, it is a collective responsibility of all of us. But the question is, how can we help in doing something that we have no idea about?
Dr. Gabriel Deyabwa noted that the Commission at the regional level is instituting measures aimed at helping ensure peace before, during and after the December polls, and this includes an educational work with political actors on the need to understand the relevance of maintaining peace throughout the region.
In fact, looking at the background here, our historical background here, we intend to organize a peace walk and peace talk, which will involve all the top hierarchy of political activists. They're going to do a peace walk where we will lead the team. They can be in their different political party t-shirts, so that we walk through the principal street of the town. After that, we will come and give messages as to why there's a need for us to work together for peace.
Chairman of the Regional Peace Council, Reverend Prince Owusu Asiko, on his part expressed gratitude to the EC boss for the timely launch of the book, citing the crucial role the book is said to play in helping maintain peace ahead of the polls, and asked that the outcome of the polls will determine the economic growth of the region.
Basically, is to educate us the do's and don'ts, for us to have the know what and know how concerning election. And so this launching has been an eye-opener for some of us, I would say for all some who were here present today. Because if the politicians were to know the laws that entails an election, there wouldn't be any brouhaha, let alone for people to be maimed and others to be killed.
He also charged political parties to be open-minded in accepting the results of the elections, as that will be crucial to the peace of the area.
Let us be open-minded. Let's come with clean heart and clean mind, so as to follow the process and get what we are looking for. After all, both parties can win at the same time. At least one party will win. We need to do whatever we can so as to have peace in our motherland.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
And so on the election headquarters, the Northern Region branch of the CPP has criticized its former national chairman and Namdom Paramount Chief, Professor Edmond Dele, for endorsing NDC flag bearer John Mahama as Ghana's incoming president. Professor Dele made this an endorsement during Mahama's courtesy visit to his palace in the Upper West region. However, at a press conference in Tamale, CPP Regional Vice Chairperson Abubakar Abdullahi Madugu questioned the endorsement, noting that the CPP has its own presidential candidate who is a viable contender.
Democratic Congress flag bearer John Dramani Mahama was in the Upper West region a couple of weeks ago to canvass vote ahead of the December polls. During the tour of the region, a former national chairman of the Convention People's Party and now paramount chief of the Nandom traditional area, now Professor Edmond Dele, addressed him as incoming president when he paid a courtesy call on him. He also added that Mr. Mahama was not a driver's mate. But this has since sparked reactions from supporters of the Convention People's Party. Addressing the media in Tamale, the Northern Regional Vice Chair of the CPP, Abubakar Abdullahi Madugu, said its former chairperson may be out of touch with realities on the ground.
In our humble view, his comments could be interpreted to mean that the people of Nandom, and by extension, the people of Ghana, should vote for the NDC and John Mahama, who in the words of the chief was the incoming president. Out of respect for our revered chief, former CPP chairman, we can only assume that age is catching up on him, or he was poorly advised. For the avoidance of doubt, we would like to make it clear to the Nandom Na, as well as the whole Ghana, that in these 2024 general elections, there are potential parties and individuals offering themselves as vehicles for change. Real change or true change or progressive change cannot be the NDC. We believe that change is CPP, as the CPP has its own candidate in the person of Her Excellency Nana Frimpongma Sarpong Kumakuma. So out of all respect, we say or ask Professor, please come again. Please leave us alone. The CPP is not for sale. In the name of great CPP, there is peace.
And we are still counting down to the December 7th election, and we've just said 3 days until the presidential and parliamentary election. The MPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, over the weekend launched a fresh battle over digitalization with NDC flag bearer John Mahama, questioning Mahama's grasp of economic matters, particularly his understanding of how digitalization drives economic growth. Addressing supporters at the Bawumia for Jobs event here in Accra, Dr. Bawumia warned Ghanaians not to bring Mr. Mahama anywhere closer to the presidency, arguing that the former president's limited knowledge of the global digital economy and inconsistent leadership style could hinder national development.
The atmosphere at the Boteman Sports Complex was electric as over 2,000 young people, both in person and online, gathered to hear the NPP flag bearer share his vision for tackling youth unemployment in the country. Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia pledged to equip 1 million youth with IT skills and launch a $100 million fintech fund to support Ghanaian tech startups.
I want to see Ghana build the digital talent we require for the fourth industrial revolution. You need digital talent. This will mean providing digital and software skills to hundreds and thousands of youth. In collaboration with the private sector, we will train at least 1 million youth in IT skills, including software developers, coders, to provide job opportunities worldwide. We will establish a fintech fund with a seed capital of $100 million to attract additional private sector funding to support Ghanaian startups.
Dr. Bawumia also criticized the NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama, calling him an inconsistent leader who fails to recognize digitalization's role in economic transformation, urging Ghanaians to keep Mr. Mahama away from the presidency.
My opponent, the former president, to put it mildly, is very inconsistent. He opposed free senior high school, saying it was bogus and will collapse the economy. But today he says he introduced it. He, as president, introduced the teacher licensure exams. But today he says he opposes it. He abolished teacher and nursing training allowance. He said he would abolish it even if it cost him the presidency. But today he says he will continue to pay them. He is not committed to it. It's just for political expedience. He has touted in the past infrastructure as one of his achievements. But because our infrastructure record is superior to his, today he says that infrastructure doesn't matter. How can we have a leader who doesn't appreciate the value of digitalization in a digital global economy? He should not be allowed close to the presidency with that mindset.
Well, the big question we've been asking the youth who are gathered here is how sure are they that the MPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, would be able to deliver on the jobs he's promising them?
He has done it before. He has enrolled so many digitalization projects in Ghana, which is obvious for everyone to see. So we believe in him and we have confidence that he will do it when he comes.
I used to go around to look for where to buy just electricity. Now I can do it and pay via Momo.
These are practical solutions, and given the opportunity, I tend to believe him than any other candidate in the sense that these are deliverable and they are clear there for me to see.
Well, the youth of the NPP are so confident that the NPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, if given the opportunity, would be able to deliver the jobs they so much need for the next 4 years. Reporting from the Boteman Sports Complex here in Accra, my name is Carlos Caloni for Joy News.
And we'll stay with the MPP because the party's flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has started a 15-day campaign tour of the Ashanti region to engage voters ahead of the December 7th election. The tour is expected to take Dr. Bawumia to all 47 constituencies in the region as he interacts with traditional leaders, market women, artisans, and other stakeholders. My colleague Nana Boachi Yadom is with the MPP presidential candidate at Atwima in Ponwa and joins us live for an update. So, Nana, the Ashanti region is key. The MPP says the MPP is targeting to win at least between 80 and 85% of the votes. Does it explain the 15 days that Dr. Bawumia is hoping to spend in the region?
Specific where he's engaging supporters, sympathizers of the party, sharing his vision and mission with them and what he intends to do when elected president of the Republic of Ghana. The vice president earlier engaged the clergymen, traditional leaders, but currently he is having his last or first rally, I must say, in the Ashanti region, and it is a rally with the people of Inyinaini here in the Atwima Mponya constituency. You can see the regional chairman Bernard Enchibu Siako going to greet the Inyinaini alongside Dr. the former Minister for Agriculture, who is also going to shake hands with the Nyineini Mahine, and also the Vice President will be doing the same. I see Apreku also here, Kunedu Apreku, who is also joining the Vice President's tour in the Ashanti region. Well, we have been told that he is going to go around all 47 constituencies in the Ashanti region, and he is going to be doing a little bit of engagement with some party supporters, market women, and the business community. The Vice President has earlier said that he is in for jobs, just as he said yesterday when he had his youth engagement. He has made mention of it again. He continues to reiterate his intention to create numerous job opportunities for the youth and the people of Ghana. He has also indicated that the government is going to prioritize a lot of things, including the creation of the Agenda 111. He's going to make sure that it is being completed on time. And next year, specifically, government is going to commission all these Agenda 111 projects, which he says is going to create a lot of jobs for the people of Ghana. But then I would want to speak to Dr. Efri Akoto. Yeah, Doc, you are joining the Vice President for the tour in the Ashanti region. I mean, how are you being received today, being the first day?
I mean, you can see for yourself, the energy is bountiful, and we are so happy the kind of reception we are getting. Wonderful message, and the reception has been wonderful.
Looking at the Ashanti region being the stronghold of the MPP, 85% you want to win, is it possible?
Yeah, more than possible. It is more than possible. But what I've seen here today is more than possible.
Thank you very much. And that is the former Minister for Agri, Dr. Efri Akoto, saying that, well, it is more than possible for the NPP to gain 85% of votes here in the Ashanti region. We have Bernard Enchibu Siako, who is the Ashanti regional chairman of the NPP, joining the Vice President for his tour here in the Ashanti. We are currently at Nyinaini in the Atwima Mponya constituency, and this is the euphoria here. A number of party supporters who have moved on to the Nyinaini School Park to watch the Vice President or listen to his vision, his policies, which he says that it is going to be one that is going to be full of job creation for the youth, that is going to be one that is going to be full of opportunities for the Ghanaian, for the ordinary Ghanaian. He has made mention of creating about 70,000 of jobs jobs after government commissions major Agenda 111 projects beginning next year. He has spoken about illegal mining and also made mention of his commitment to make sure that matters of LGBTQ would not rise when elected as president of the Republic of Ghana. And so the senior, as the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, kickstarts a 15-day tour in the Ashanti region.
So, away from the election headquarters, also in subsequent bulletin, we'll bring you the campaign tour of the NDC flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama. He is in the OT region for a visit and to engage with residents in that region. Now, let me take you to Adabraka here in Accra, a suburb of the Central Business District, where they are living in fear following a daylight robbery incident that occurred over the weekend. They say this is the third incident in the past 3 months, attributing the crime to the lack of security in the area. They have been speaking with my colleague, Sweetie Abochi.
At Kabest Jewelry, right here in Adabraka, where we witnessed that broad daylight robbery about 48 hours ago. This morning we are here. I mean, reactions have been pouring in from social media, among our own circles at home, in the offices. But we are here this morning to understand how are the residents feeling this morning. I've seen that there are some shops that are open, and shortly we'll be interacting with some of the residents who actually witnessed this incident. But I just want to show you how the bullets that were fired into the air, when they fell into the ground, they were able to perforate this tarred place. And there are about 4 of them. We are told that the police were here. They've gathered all the evidence, which means that they were able to dig out the casings from the ground. And it's not only there. We can see some, we were shown a number of them. I think the car is parked over that, so we can't see that. But let's head over here too. You can see that a shop is opened. A number of them, people have come out. It's Monday, and they'll tell you that life has to go on. But follow me now. Let's interact with residents who were actually here during the time of that robbery, what they saw, how it made them feel, and ultimately how confident are they right now as we speak in the security here in Adabraka. And thank you for speaking to us. Please, you can join us. Let's have a conversation. Over with them, Eddie. So we want to understand, first of all, what did you see on Saturday? What happened?
Anopa bese 10:30 going, 10:15 going. Ana kaba kube parki obi amoto ni sino 4x4. E parki o sa be at least bese 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Nti akobi by inside otaba is a customer. Obeton good. Nti parki ni kawa. Nti kotokonu scan kotokonu wenu no mu share car ni mu ma no. Papa we oye don ojo shop. Omu share car ni ma no. Omu share car ni ma no pe. Nti oko na robes ni share no bar reverse.
Papa we now they can no. Okay, so but you carry the load and put it in the car. Okay, but you were here with them. All right.
Omu dosu. Nti ohana mu ni share na papa no bar reverse. Bar reverse on the car no. Be on be bo motor dey see on car no e chita no. You are got and now. I was just say, open the gate, open the door, open the door, open the door. Into one being Tomu shoot to canu, and Tomu shoot to canu, Aquanu. Open the door, never could you can boot. Into be a pen, 25 and go original boot, almost like Tomu fast canu. Because she never could 2 scan even 2 years.
Hold on, I need to do a translation so that our audience can follow us. So he's basically narrating what he saw on Saturday. He says that after some people who are regular people who often help to load the money and everything else into the car, helped to do that. And then the car was trying to move away to wherever their destination was. And then this car that had the armed robbers in it, crossed them on the junction where the motorbike is. I'll show you shortly after this. And they ordered the man to get out of the car, and he refused. So they started firing at the car. Did he get hurt? Did the driver get hurt? Deny. Okay, so they shot at the car, and the driver got frightened, and so he opened the car and they ran away. The driver ran away. Okay, and opened the car door, and so they got access now and started taking the money away. Okay, how did this whole experience make you feel?
Oh,
you told me that you've lived here for 40 years now.
I say 40 years. Ya nyina ha na ebedi ago. Your boss ni papa ne o. We papa we ni ya nyane wa ni ya. We are happy 2 times. We come 3 months ni. There by no we dia no ya work here ba ko na si wa no.
This is the landlord here, and they're calling him honorable. Oh no, they say you ran into the toilet. But what was your experience?
I was sitting outside here. When I heard the gun. And my friend that I was sitting down, he was looking at them. And he told me that the gunman is heading towards us. So we have to leave the place because they don't want us to see what is going on. So we left. But I didn't go into the toilet. But the bottom line of this case is that, the guy, I don't know, he had a friend. And that friend is misleading him. Because when you are doing such business here, we all know the money that they bring here. You have to protect your interest.
And the police say that they are still on the heels of the robbers with the aim of arresting them. Now, the quest for accreditation to offer degree programs at Zuarugu Nursing and Midwifery Training College in the Upper East Region has received a significant boost with the inauguration of a new skills laboratory. The 350 capacity facility was officially opened during the college's 2024 matriculation ceremony. Correspondent Abesori has more in this report.
Without the skills laboratory, students of the Zuarungu Nursing and Midwifery Training College previously had to rely on the laboratories of other institutions for their practical lectures and examinations, a situation that caused frustration for the administration and students. The college also fell short of the infrastructural requirements to merit accreditation to run degree programs, something it has been trying to achieve for some years now. However, this would soon be a thing of the past with the commissioning of a new 350 capacity skills laboratory constructed from internally generated funds and donations from philanthropists and corporate organizations. The new skills laboratory is expected to enhance practical training, thereby improving educational outcomes for the nursing and midwifery students. Michael Mantamia is the principal of the Zuarungu Nursing and Midwifery Training College.
Here we are today with a 350 capacity skills laboratory, 2 offices, 2 self-practice rooms where students can always practice at their own leisure time the skills that they need to learn, 2 storerooms and 2 suite rooms funded solely from internally generated funds.
This facility is only the first phase of a 3-story skills laboratory, library, and ICT complex. The principal expressed optimism about achieving accreditation to run degree programs at the Zuarungu Nursing and Midwifery Training College and urged corporate organizations and stakeholders to support the completion of the other critical components of this state-of-the-art facility.
Well, that's our show for today. For more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com, and you have stories that will fix the economy, bring exchange rate below 5 cedis when elected. Who is saying this? Alan Kojo Chematen, as he assured Ghanaians of a rebound in the economy if he's elected as president. There are more stories on myjoyonline.com. But that's it for our show. Tomorrow, same time, we shall be here to bring you another exciting edition whilst keeping an eye on the U.S. election. We have a whole program in the early hours of Wednesday from 12 midnight all the way to 5 a.m. as we look at who will be winning. My name is Elton, but whatever you are up to in the hours ahead of is profitable. Enjoy your evening and take care.